It's not an unfair thing to say that Spy is generally considered to be the weakest class in TF2 at the moment. Notice how I said weakest, not worst. This overwhelming consensus of Spy being weak can be down to a few things. The idea that players aren't fooled by disguises anymore after so many years of the game being up, which is completely untrue by the way. Or the idea that the Pyro update nerfed him out of existence, also untrue. And even the idea that in more competitive TF2 settings he's simply outclassed. Again, untrue. Regardless, ask anyone and Spy is generally considered to be quite weak in the current state of TF2. I'm not really here to debate why. I'm here as to debate what could be done to fix this. What could be done to give Spy that little extra boost to put him on par with some of the other mercenaries. And I think I've had some pretty good ideas. So before suggesting my own improvements, let's take a look back at some of Spy's other class-specific changes that have happened throughout the years. The gunmetal update provided Spy with a plethora of buffs and other changes. Some of the more impactful being that he has a reduced debuff time when he is cloaked, and now cloaking will reduce your damage taken overall. The purpose of these changes was to help Spy escape from combat and not fall into the very stereotypical stab, die kind of niche. Then not too long after, meet your match rolled around. Yikes. And buffed the Spy's movement speed from 100% on the equivalent with Pyro to 107%, the equivalent of Medic. Spy as a class generally struggled to close the gap on faster targets like Scouts and Medics and even Pyros. And this movement speed buff was more of a quality of life change than a redefining class change. These are overall small changes that have been done over a long period of time, and they've added to Spy's offensive capabilities greatly. But I think now is probably time to add to his defensive capabilities. His abilities to trick, disguise, and fool players. The number one change I recommend implementing is the ability to consistently reload your gun when disguised as your target. Now, Spy can already reload his gun when disguised. By keeping your gun on a low amount of ammo and consistently switching between your knife and your gun, you can mimic reloading as your disguised class. But this isn't a consistent method of reloading. Constantly switching between your primary and your knife can mean that when you approach your target, you sometimes might have your gun out instead of your knife. And we shouldn't have to. You should be able to hold down the R button or reload button, whatever you bound it to, and just mimic reloading by doing that. I don't know why that wasn't implemented in the game to begin with. One change I don't necessarily want to recommend, but I do want to debate about, is the ability to increase Spy speed when disguising as a Scout. When you disguise as a Scout, your movement speed isn't bumped up to what his is. You still remain at that 107% movement speed. Bumping up Spy's speed to match the Scouts when disguised, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about. On one hand, nerfing his speed to match his other classes makes perfect sense, but if you were to buff his speed to match the Scouts, there'd be no reason not to disguise as Scout when leaving the spawn room to get to the battle quicker. This could implement some new tech into Spy, something he could desperately need, but at the same time, I'm not overly sure how I feel about it. I'd like to see someone else smarter than me debate this. The final change that needs to be made to Spy as a class is to consistently fix all of his disguising bugs. We've all seen the images of characters missing limbs, holding the wrong weapons, all that kind of stuff. Hats not rendering. These bugs need to be fixed. Weapon adjustments is the category I'm most excited to talk about. I'm a little out of my depth debating on what a class's role should be or how they should be played, but weapon buffs, nerfs and adjustments is something I'm much more comfortable talking about. First weapon change, the Diamondback. Does too much damage. It rewards Spy for doing what he's meant to do, and that in theory is a really good idea. However, currently the reward is too big, it's too good. A minus 15% damage penalty and no random crits is nothing to stop this gun. What I'd do to change this gun is enforce a maximum crit limit capacity that the Spy could hold at one time. I'm thinking around the somewhere of, 10 crits. I think that sounds very reasonable. And I'd also reduce the clip size, maybe down to 4. I should at this moment mention that I am neither a pro game designer nor an employee at Valve, so all these changes are purely coming from personal experience and what I've read about online. Other weapon changes that need happening, let's see, well, the obvious one, red tape recorder. Now, we all remember the old red tape recorder, good lord. I know one idea that could be done is to buff the red tape recorder's deconstruction speed to match the damage speed of the sapper, but then what would be the purpose of using the Zapper? One scenario in which people are passionate about using the red tape recorder, those who are dedicated to it anyway, is that of the mini sentry. Using the red tape recorder on the mini sentry is generally considered to be better than using the Zapper if you have to use a Zapper at all, because the Frontier Justice Engineer is usually just going to ignore it, because the mini sentry is so disposable, and when it goes down, he gets his 2 crits that he can use on high tower to terrorise the Trolgers. A very bizarre and a little out of left field change I do suggest, again not recommend, suggest, is the ability to buff the red tape recorder's deconstruction speed. However, when a sentry goes down, maybe place a delay on an engineer before he can build another one again. This effect could be unique to the red tape recorder, and while its deconstruction speed would still be very slow, it would at least give an incentive to use it, honestly. Let's talk knives. Everyone widely agrees the Your Eternal Reward is underpowered, but I think it's such a cool and fun playstyle idea that we can't remove it entirely. Maybe I'd add a damage resistance once you finally stab someone in the back and gain their disguise. This damage resistance wouldn't be anything more than say 20%, but in that short period of time of your teammates not quite understanding if someone's a spy or not and then throwing out shots randomly, this would give the spy a decision window to help him escape. The last thing I want to bring up is the Invis Watchers. I think they're all fine. The Dead Ringer no longer being able to pick up ammo from ammo packs was a great change. The Invis Watch itself is by far the best one. And the Cloak and Dagger, while I'd say it is definitely the weakest, it is nowhere near bad. It provides a niche, it provides an opportunity for spies to get behind enemy lines and stay behind enemy lines for longer. I would improve the length that you could move before having to stand still and recharge it again because, you know, that's boring. The last thing that needs to change about Spy is how he can interact with the different classes. Spy's most common enemy class interactions being that of the Engineer, the Heavy, and the Sniper. However, apart from really important picks such as the Medic, most of the other classes are often unattended to by Spies. Demo men and soldiers can jump away whenever they want to, Scouts are much faster, and Pyros, well, no Spy wants to go near a Pyro. To further increase Spy's effectiveness, we need to further increase his effectiveness against different classes. Bringing up my proposed idea of matching Spy's speed to be the Scouts when he is disguised as the Scout is a good step forward. However, I think we can also do something else with this. One way to increase the effectiveness of a class is to give them more weapons that enable different matchups with different classes, such as the Spicicle be giving Spy fire immunity for a little bit to help him deal with better Pyros. What I'm suggesting is some sort of weapon, maybe a gun or a knife, that allows Spy to deal more damage to the classes of higher speed numbers. If we were to put this stat onto say a gun, then this would allow Spies to deal with Scouts more easily as the Scout can outrun his backstabs. This would also make for easy medic pickings and dealing with Pyros at longer range. Outraging the Pyro is how you win the duel. And if the Spy had a consistent and effective weapon to deal with Pyros, something more equivalent to the Spicicle, then I think that would buff the class overall. However, this does seem, well, quite game-breaking on a technical level. Not game-breaking as in overpowered, but game-breaking as in it's never been implemented before. So, to adjust for this, I'd make this gun deal less damage to targets of lower speed numbers, less damage to heavies, less damage to engineers, and I would factor in less damage to sentries as well, just to make sure this knife doesn't turn out to be a better all-round option. I'd also implement no random crits, but that's a given. And a negative deploy and holster stat, just to make sure that this gun can't easily be whipped out to pick up a Scout and then backstab someone else. The point of this gun is to allow Spy to deal with those important classes that he currently struggles to deal with. He struggles to deal with Pyros, obviously, it's his hard counter, and he struggles to deal with Scouts due to their speed and maneuverability. But this gun would allow him to deal with them more efficiently and get the most important medic picks. Having an easier time gunning down a medic I think would further boost his viability in the more competitive modes. Something else I propose is an Invis watch that lets you glide through enemy players, just like you can with your current teammates. However, this watch would have a massive cloak drain on doing so you'd only be able to get through maybe 1 or 2 players. This watch would allow Spy to escape. As I previously mentioned earlier, the whole role of backstabbing an important pick and then dying is quite common for Spies, and that's something that needs to change if he's going to improve. Apart from these changes though, I did want to bring up sappers overall. I personally think it is very overpowered that you can consistently spam sappers without some sort of cooldown. Now other players might disagree with me for this, but if literally every other weapon in the game of such qualities has a cooldown, Girati, Mad Milk, whatnot, they're all single use weapons for a limited time, and you have to wait and recharge. I'm not suggesting implementing a recharge time on sappers, but I am suggesting that maybe something needs to be done about it. Maybe a larger delay before you can place another one. Because as we all know, the Sapper Happy Spy versus the Gibbous Engineer is a very unfun matchup. So, what's my conclusion to all this? Valve doesn't care. Well, you know, it's not that they don't care, it's that none of these changes I've suggested are going to be implemented. Like, you know, let's be real. I knew making this video would be kind of redundant from a purely progress point. Discussion is the antithesis of improvement, and I think that by getting people to discuss something, you can build up community ideas and further cement of what we truly think, what needs to be changed about Spire. And also I recorded this footage of me playing a pretty good game on Upward. Sadly, all of the good kills I got was before I turned recording on, but oh well. Hello, yes, post-editing recording update again. So yeah, I really just wanted to make this video talking about what kind of things I think could be done to improve Spy. I am not a Spy main, I'm not a Spy pro by any means, but I really do enjoy playing Spy on those rare good days where everything's going well. Let's see. So I always come up with the video idea first. I've got a few ideas still in waiting that I still need to record footage for. And then the recording comes second, and I've got lots of footage for various different characters and play styles that I could potentially talk about. In terms of the next video I'm going to make, I think I'm going to do this, I think I'm going to make this a series, but we'll go backwards, so we'll go to Sniper next. And, well, we all know Sniper has some problems. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I did walk the dog from the last video, and I figured out how to do effects in Premiere Pro, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, okay, thank you very much for watching. And yeah, until whenever the next time might be. Bye.